So this is another resource I developed around aerodynamic mechanisms, and it's for the crank and slider. So it's a very basic resource that can be used maybe to start at a topic just to get pupils used to this whole idea of movement and arms and linkages. So just to start off with, this inner circle is divided into 60-30 just as a reference for the pupils as they can move this around. And we can see here that as it's dragged over to the extreme right, in this case it'll give us the minimum movement, and across the opposite side where it's going to give us the maximum. And just to get them used to this whole idea of the displacement and how far the point will actually move across it. So as I mentioned a couple of times in this portfolio already, this whole idea of giving context to this question of a Yale lock. So this whole idea, all the pupils would hopefully anyway have seen something very like this, or I could even have a model in the class, that if we take the apex of the lock here, and as it rotates, the disc moves back to a certain point where you're then allowed to open the door. So starting with this as the top, similar to the lock, we can see that this is the point along the displacement line here, along the slider. So what we could do is we could drop in a line such as this to basically represent that, saying when I turn this point, which is the handle, around a certain amount, this is going to slide over to this point here, and this line represents where the lock will actually allow the door to open. So it's actually how far you turn it and exactly that point where it'll then allow the door to open. So what the pupils will have to do is interact with this and say, for example, after 30 degrees, will it allow it to open? No, it won't. It hasn't come far enough yet. After 60, will it? Just about. It's just come too far. So how far between 30 and 60 will it be? So we could drop it here, for example, and that would be it. Now, another way we can move this question about so as pupils aren't necessarily fixated on one answer is because of SOLIDWORKS we can just move it around a small bit. So for example, I could have 6 of these different questions, and all I have to do is move this small amounts over and back and hand this out to the pupils then. So the whole idea we're getting them used to here is that this length will never change here because it's a fixed distance, and this whole idea that how do they work back to find it then, they'll have to take this distance with their compass and swing it from this point, and where it cuts either up here or down here will represent where or how far the lock will have to be turned to open. So that's just one possibility of using this resource to help the kids with this whole idea of the crank and slider.